For the first time ever in Diamondback history, not one, not two, but three players have won the Silver Slugger Award. Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, and Christian Carroll. How good of a season did they really have? And what is the forecast for 2026?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the D-backs Monday through Friday. And thank you so much for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every single day. I am your host, Dane Biggs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. We are here today, especially a little bit different. We're actually live broadcasting this onto YouTube. And so if you are listening to this after the fact, which most of you are, that's fine. But we did stream this live on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and see if you can make it to our next one, because I have chat open and I'm happy to take questions and comments and things like that. So anyway, we have quite a few fun things to talk about. Yesterday, the Silver Sluggers for the National League was announced, and that was very exciting because we'll talk about that in a second. Not that I didn't just already say it, but then we're going to talk about some final end-of-year roster moves that the Diamondbacks made, some pretty big moves, as a matter of fact. And then who are we going to sign now that free agency is happening and teams can sign whoever they want? Well, we're going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about the cool and fun thing, which is the Silver Sluggers. The Diamondbacks had 3 finalists for Silver Sluggers this year, which was the second most. The Dodgers had 4. But if you count the team as a Silver Slugger finalist as well, then we had 4. The Dodgers had 5. But 3 finalists for the Silver Slugger Award, and all 3 of the Diamondback finalists won, which I don't know how common that is, but the Diamondbacks are the only team to have 3 Silver Sluggers this year. The Mets are second with 2, but no other team has more than 1. I suppose the Dodgers technically have 2 because Shohei Ohtani won for DH and the Dodgers won as the team overall Silver Slugger, which I didn't really know existed until recently. So, but incredible stuff. The thing that says to me is that we got some intense talent on the team, and 2 of those are improvements upon last year, which last year already was a good year for Perdomo and Carroll. But this year, a huge improvement from both players. Carroll not only got the Silver Slugger, but also was a finalist for Gold Glove. So we have some elite level players on the team, at least offensively, and which makes me very excited about what next year is going to look like if and when we address our pitching needs. So very, very cool. This actually, so that up till this point, the Diamondbacks had won 12 Silver Slugger awards, and now have bumped that up to 15 Silver Slugger awards. We don't have nearly as many as I thought we would, but so now we've won 15 Silver Sluggers as a team, and there are now 11 total Diamondbacks, 11 total players who have won a Silver Slugger. Marte is only the second multi-Silver Slugger award winner, behind Paul Goldschmidt, who won 4. So sometimes we forget how darn good Paul Goldschmidt was. But yeah, winning 4 Gold Gloves, 4 Silver Sluggers. He also won Gold Gloves. And Marte won one last year and won another this year. Anyway, want to quickly shout out Devin, who is on the chat right now. What were you doing up at 6 a.m.? We got a show to make. We got a show to do. Also, I will be transparent. So usually we record these the night before, but because of the way news breaks and often the way games end very late, sometimes I'm up super, super late, and that kind of wrecks my next day. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I try and record these first thing in the morning instead, and that'll be a little bit better. Get me to bed a little bit earlier. So we're here. So exciting. We'll see how this goes. This may not last very long, but this may be the new norm. We'll see. Anyway, for anybody who's listening to this after the fact, none of this matters. You're all good, except the fact that Devin's here. We like that. We like having Devin here. Anyway, another thing that that occurred to me bright and early this morning when I woke up, is I thought, wait a minute, would Eugenio Suarez have won a Silver Slugger as well if he had stayed here, if we had kept him? And Manny Machado won the Silver Slugger for the National League, and he did very well this season. He had a very good season. But Suarez, I think, would have won. I think he probably would have taken the Silver Slugger. And from my understanding of how the Silver Slugger award works, is it only factors in your performance on your current team, which is why he didn't get a nod even in the American League. I was really expecting Suarez and Naylor to both get a Silver Slugger finalist in the American League, but neither did. And I believe that's because their numbers on the Mariners weren't super great, because they were only on the Mariners for a little bit, and the numbers on the Diamondbacks no longer count. I think that's how it works. From the research I did, that's what it looks like. But that would have been pretty wild. Also, I don't know the people voting. I don't know how the voting works exactly. If they would have been like, well, there's already 3 Diamondbacks on here, we probably can't have 4. I don't know if that's how it works, or if it's just a blanket, like, blind voting. But he probably would have won third base had he still been on the Diamondbacks. So that would have been pretty crazy. And then for next year, hopefully all 3 of these sluggers continue to slug as they have been slugging. I'm trying to fit in as many slugger words as I can. If I hit 50, then I win a prize. Anyway, if all 3 sluggers slug the way they've been slugging, then that bodes very well for the 2026 season already. And then we have some expected improvement from Lawler, assuming we don't trade him. I hope we don't, but if we do, we're getting some pretty great pitchers in return, or a great pitcher in return. But Lawler, I expect a big improvement. Maybe not Silver Slugger caliber, but maybe 2024, 2023 Corbin Carroll, which would be amazing. Gabriel Moreno, if he stays healthy, I think he could make an argument for a Silver Slugger nod next season. I don't know that he would win, but I think he would. I think he'd at least get a nod. His OPS plus is not quite as high as the winner of the Rockies catcher. I can't remember his name, but if he improves upon himself this year by being healthy all season, then I could see him making a real run for the spot. So anyway, that's very exciting. Anyway, Devin says, I'm feeling a breakout for Jordan Lawler. I am too. He looked real good at the end of last season. And then same for Gabby, if he can stay on the field. So yeah, absolutely. So Devin and I are in agreement on these so far. So let's see if I can say something that will get Devin riled up. But for now, we're going to actually move on and talk about some of the moves the Diamondbacks have made now that they have to have only 40 people on their 40-man roster. They made some pretty big moves, and some other players made some moves as well that we're going to talk about right after this break. So stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. The Diamondbacks, again, can only have 4D, 40 players on their active roster. Now, there's only 26 players on their major league active roster. I should say there's a 26 active roster, and then there's the 40-man roster. And the active roster is who is in the majors, and then your 40-man roster is anybody who's not on the active roster is they're in the minors, essentially. But it's very easy to call them up. So basically, if you look at the transaction list for a team, if it says that they have recalled or deferred or whatever a player from the minors, if they've recalled a player from the minors, that's essentially somebody on our 40-man roster. We go, hey, you're coming up, and it's really easy to just if they're not on the 40-man roster, then they have to you're basically getting into like contract stuff, which is messy. And I don't know enough about that to really explain it, but basically they pick up the minor league contract of a minor league player and then they bring him in. So it's a bit more of a hassle. And so if the team expects a player who is not in the majors to be in the majors this season, they'll often put them on the 40-man roster. But as of the end of the season, the Diamondbacks had 39 people on their active roster, I keep saying active roster, on their 40-man roster. They had 39 people, but they had 9 injured players that they had to reinstate to the 40-man roster, which means that they would be 8 players over the limit. Now, 3 players did become free agents, and we decided not to re-sign, or we opted out of Elvin Rodriguez's contract, which made him a free agent, but that still left 4 players more than we were able to have. So yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess 2 days ago, 2 days ago or yesterday, so one or the other, the Diamondbacks sent a handful of players outright to Reno, which basically means they're on outright waivers. So any team can pick them up, or they can elect to become free agents. Essentially, I believe if it's their first time, they themselves cannot elect to become free agents. But if this is the second time they've been put on waivers, they can become free agents. And they did that to 5 players. Those 5 players are infielder Connor Kaiser, and pitchers Casey Kelly, Kyle Nelson, John Curtis, and Austin Pope. We saw John Curtis and Austin Pope at the end of the season. Austin Pope had a perfect 1 inning. But looking at his minor league numbers, I can see why maybe the team was less excited about retaining Austin Pope as opposed to other pitchers. So the 5 of them are officially Reno bound, assuming somebody else doesn't sign them. So any of the other 29 teams can go, ooh, Austin Pope, we'll take him. But if none of them do get selected, then they will presumably be on our be on the Reno Aces roster next season. So that's interesting. But people are getting selected and called up, or are getting picked up on waivers already. So it's happening. So make sure to stay in, or follow to stay in the loop. I'm trying to post shorts and things to X and Instagram and even TikTok and stuff a little bit more. So be sure to follow us there, because we'll keep you guys posted. But the biggest news on this transaction report that I'm looking at here is that Ildemaro Vargas has elected free agency, which could be a two-way decision between Vargas and the Diamondbacks. But Vargas is a free agent. We may re-sign him again. I'm hoping, again, we re-sign James McCann. I think it would be a good idea to re-sign Jalen Beeks, but those may be later in the offseason signings and not something that we do right away. We did not we had first dibs on McCann and Beeks until yesterday mid-afternoon. So, and we didn't sign them. So I guess that means that we're going to see what the market has to offer first. The Diamondbacks tend to sign a lot of people, and a lot of teams, but tend to sign a lot of people right at the end of the off season, right before the season starts. I mean, sometimes well into spring training or after spring training, they'll be signing people. So I'm not expecting too many big blockbuster moves to happen, at least for the first couple months. Maybe at the winter meetings in December we could see some moves happen, or just leading into that. But as the 40-man roster stands right now, the Diamondbacks have 38 people on their roster, so they have a little bit of room to sign people without having to put people on waivers. But if they want to sign 3 players, then they're going to need to put another one out on waivers. So that is essentially the position that the Diamondbacks find themselves in now. It's kind of cool, kind of interesting. It's fun to see this, the way that this all works. But officially, all of our injured players are recalled as well, so they're all back on the active. I keep saying active. Sorry, the 40-man roster. So if you go and look up the 40-man roster, you'll see Corbin Burns is on there. He's not on the injured list. He's still injured, but that's the way it is with 9 players on the injured list, which is crazy. Anyway, we are going to talk about kind of more of the fun stuff here. Is who are we going to sign? We have at least 2 people that we can sign without having to worry about our 40-man roster. So who are those 2+ people gonna be? Well, we had some big news breaking yesterday about some players that are now free agents. So we're going to talk about that after this short break. So stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, the Diamondbacks need pitchers. We all know this. The Diamondbacks are in desperate need of 2 starting pitchers and a whole bullpen of pitchers. Well, news broke yesterday that the Rays have declined their team option on Pete Fairbanks, who was their closer, and Fairbanks is now a free agent. They declined their $11 million option on him just yesterday. So I'm like, whoa, okay, well, he must stink or something, right? Well, he has a pretty darn good record. I had it all pulled up here and then it went away. So let me pull that back up. But Pete Fairbanks has, let's go to Baseball Reference, has an ERA of 2.83, which is not bad for a relief pitcher. He's pitched in 61 games, so he was healthy all season, has 27 saves, and has 59 strikeouts. So very good. A 1.04 whip. So just over one is like anything under one is elite. So one is pretty darn good. He's only 31 years old. He'll be 32 at the start of the season. And played on Tampa Bay pretty much his whole career except for half of 2019. So he's kind of in a similar spot as Zach Gallen as far as his career goes. But he did post 5 losses, which is his second most in his career. But his ERA, yeah, looks pretty darn good. He gave up 22 runs in 61 appearances, which isn't bad. It's 48 games finished. I mean, I'm kind of, maybe it's because he was getting paid more than they wanted to pay. But yeah, 59 strikeouts, maybe not crazy, but not bad. That's nearly a strikeout per appearance. So anyway, very interesting. I think that Pete Fairbanks would be a great signing for the Diamondbacks. He'd probably be cheaper than like Edwin Diaz, maybe cheaper than like Robert Suarez, though he may be kind of in the same realm. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Which we are live streaming this episode, and we may be doing this for all future episodes. So if you're live in the chat, let me know what you think about this. But we also have other options. There's Devin Williams from the Yankees, who put up a pretty good season, though I think Fairbanks put up a slightly better one. Robert Suarez would be I think Robert Suarez is probably our best option to sign. He was Robert Suarez of the Padres. He would be a bit more expensive, but he had an amazing 2025. And the Padres led the league in bullpen ERA, in saves, and all those late game pitching stats, and in no small part to Robert Suarez. So I think he would be a really good one to get. Devin says Fairbanks would be solid, but Williams is actually who I had my eye on. Great buy low candidate, fits our budget. I agree. I think Williams it would be a lot less expensive. Fairbanks, I think, would maybe fit into that as well, but I'd have to do a little bit more research. There's also Ryan Helsley and Tyler Rogers. I was watching the PHNEX Diamondbacks podcast yesterday, and they were talking about Diaz and Suarez, and they essentially determined, and I wanted to do a bit more research into this as well, but they essentially determined that we could sign with who we are no longer paying, between who we traded away plus who is now free agents. I believe we have I think it's like a $70 million hole that we can fill. And so if we were to sign somebody like Suarez, that would essentially cut that in half. Or if we were to sign somebody like Diaz, that would essentially cut it in half a little bit more. So we could sign 2 all-star relievers, or we could sign 1 all-star reliever and a handful of other guys, or we could sign a all-star reliever and an all-star starter. We're kind of all over the place. But yeah, Fairbanks would be around 10 to 12 million. Williams would be between 7 and 10, according to Devin. So, but yeah, I think one would stretch the budget a bit more, and then Suarez, I believe, is like 12 to 15. So that would stretch the budget, if we're going with somebody like Diaz, Suarez, or Fairbanks. But that is the kind of signing that would show that the Diamondbacks do mean business and still mean business, even though they've said, oh, we're going to not spend as much on payroll this year. That's not very fun, but but the other thing is that we don't just need a closer, we need a whole bullpen essentially. If I mean, we wouldn't if Puck and Martinez were going to be back at the at the start of the season, but they're not going to be. So we need to assume that they're just not going to be in all season, which means, yeah, we need a good number of people. Now we do have quite a few relief pitchers that I feel pretty good about. I'm excited. I'm excited to see Brandon Garcia. He's still got a little bit of developing to do, but I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see Taylor Rashi, Andrew Saalfrank. I think Ryan Thompson still's got it. Ryan Thompson is probably more of he's been there a bit longer and is probably less prone to injury, which means we can kind of just expect to see what we're going to get from him. But so, we have a fair number of people, and that's just a handful. We'll have Dre Jameson, assuming he stays healthy, which he is very, very good when he's up. Andrew Hoffman did a pretty good job in his outing. We have Philip Abner, who did a fairly good job as well. So we have quite a few people, but so we don't need an entire bullpen. But with these younger guys like Abner and Garcia and Hoffman, we don't want them pitching in back-to-back games because they're going to hurt themselves. And we don't want Dre Jameson pitching in back-to-back games because he's going to hurt himself. So we need some more experienced arms in the bullpen that we can kind of rely on to eat innings more so than these younger guys, at least for now. Maybe towards the second half of the season, as they're kind of more in the groove of things, are good, but I don't want more Tommy John surgeries happening there. So that's something to keep in mind. But there are a lot of relief pitchers on the market right now. There's Taylor Rogers, there's Kyle Finnegan, there's Kenley Jansen, who I actually think would be a pretty good signing for the Diamondbacks, assuming we can get him for not too expensive. There's Emilio Pagan. I mean, we could get Luke Weaver. I don't know if that's a good idea, but we'll see. But there's quite a lot of people that we could sign, and then there's the whole trade market. I mean, if we really are serious about this whole trading our position players for pitchers, I mean, we could probably get some pretty solid arms in the bullpen and in the starting rotation. So there's a lot to, so there's a lot of options there. And really, this is going to come down to Mike Hazen and the scouting program really understanding what we are looking for and also what the strengths of our coaching staff is. Because and that's one thing that worries me, is how young the coaching staff is, as far as like how long they've been with the organization. Is we need to know what their strengths are so that we can identify a pitcher who maybe has struggled in certain areas, but we go, oh, they're struggling in XYZ area. Well, our pitching staff knows how to fix XYZ problem. Maybe they have strengths, they have weaknesses in other areas, but one of their strengths is they know how to fix command issues or whatever, command issues on off-speed pitches. They know how to train that into players. And this guy is really good, except he gives up a lot of home runs on his off-speed pitches because he's always struggling with command or whatever. That guy is a good get because he's not going to be worth as much. People aren't going to be asking, or he's not going to be asking for as much. And we could probably turn him into an elite pitcher if we can fix that just one little problem. That's kind of that Moneyball mentality of problem solving there. But I don't know that we really have that good of a read on our pitching staff yet. In fact, there have been quite a few things coming out yesterday and even today that's saying that there probably will be a little bit of a shakeup with how we develop pitchers internally, and our pitching staff might have a little bit of a shakeup. Now, it doesn't sound like anybody's getting fired or anything like that, but I think they're reorganizing their pitching development. But I also saw that Mike Hazen was talking about how they're going to start pushing their pitchers a bit harder. I hope that means that they're going to be conditioning them in a safe way to be able to take on the workload that comes with major league pitching. Not we're just going to throw them at the wall and work them harder and harder and harder until they get injured, because I think that's what one of the problems have been. But if the problem is we're not preparing them for the major league level, then yes, I think then maybe that is a good thing. But that does worry me a little bit when I'm seeing, the Diamondbacks are kind of pushing their younger guys a bit hard and they're getting injured because of it. And then they go, we're going to push them even harder. So that kind of scares me a little bit, but hopefully it's the latter or the former. And they're going to be working them harder to prep them for the expanded workload that they're going to expect. But that, I mean, I think if it's that, and if we're able to sign a good number of veteran pitchers to be in our bullpen, then I'll feel a whole lot better about that. And I do think we need to sign a closer. I know that the front office is kind of like, well, we'll let our numbers decide who should close in any given game based on who's pitching or who's hitting and what the score is and what the right-handed batter situation. No, I think if we sign a closer and he's able to get the job done, he's our closer and he needs to just be our closer. And to sign somebody like Edwin Diaz or Robert Suarez, I think is kind of my pick right now. I think to sign Robert Suarez would be, hey, we're paying him a lot of money to be our closer. He's our closer and he's going to do a good job. And whether or not the guy batting is right-handed or left-handed or switch hitter or whatever the computer algorithms say, he's going to be our guy. And then they can start working in reverse order, being like, okay, well, who's our setup guy? Who's the guy, Salfrank is really good at inducing ground balls. So maybe he's our 8th inning guy. And let's say maybe our 7th inning guy, maybe that's our right-handed guy or whatever. So, but I think there needs to be a solid plan in place for how the bullpen operates. And if there is, and we have the players to work that, then I think we're going to have at least a mediocre bullpen, which is all we need. We don't need a stellar bullpen. Thanks to our Silver Sluggers and our very impressive offense, if we could just have a mediocre bullpen, we'd make the playoffs, at least. And if we could have a good bullpen or a great bullpen, then, oh boy, you're making some big news there. Anyway, there's even more to talk about, but we're going to have to save that for next episode on Monday. So, because that's the show, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Devin, thanks so much for being here live in chat. We will probably do this again next week as well. Hopefully all 5 days. We'll see. So be sure to tune in on YouTube at Locked On Diamondbacks. Be sure to follow us on X and Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're also on Facebook as well at Locked On D-Backs. We're on YouTube as well as every other place you get your podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at slackshack.tv, my website. Thank you once again for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every single day, and I will see you tomorrow.